What you know about rolling down in the deep? When your brain goes numb, you can call that mental freeze. When these people talk too much.
Welcome to PBE Rewind, your one-stop shop, all things PBE. I'm your host, Al Torr, and with me again, the minor league savant, Sam. This last week we wrapped up the offseason and jumped right into the season 23 spring training, which is a time of year when everybody is hopeful, fresh, and excited about the new season. Last week we covered all the exciting news of the offseason, and this week we'll be looking back on the spring training and previewing the rest of season 23. Let's get right into it and look back at the season 23 spring training. The review of the spring training comes to us courtesy of Red Arrow, who simmed and broadcast the last spring training sim, and we always thank him for his hard work here at PBE. The Indianapolis Apex struggled during spring training. They went 0-20 to start out the spring, failing to record a single game in the win column. They would end up winning 2 of their final 3 games to close out the spring, giving hope to the team and fans alike. The season may not be as poor as indicated by a rough start. It was far from all negatives for Apex, though, as they had many contributors on both sides of the ball that helped them with strong performances. Rick Hood hit .348 with 2 home runs and 8 RBI, and senior Dr. Javier Dominguez Jr. hit 6 home runs in the short spring season. Indy has a young core that they hope will make strides throughout the season as they grow and mature throughout together as a unit. On the dark side of the force, we have the Death Valley Scorpions, who surprisingly struggled during spring training with an 8-16 record, including several games in which they gave up 20 or even 30 runs. Death Valley certainly hopes they were just ironing out some of the kinks, as they are a well-oiled machine that constantly pumps out contending games. It may just have been a case of trying new things out, as Death Valley certainly hopes their season looks drastically different from spring training. Center fielder Andrew Aram led the offense, hitting a .301 with 3 home runs and 14 RBI. And on the pitching side of things, the pitching struggled, but Death Valley had solid starters that will surely rebound from tough springs. And now looking back at Red Arrows and Mine's team, the Sarasota Supernovas had quite the successful spring training, going 17-7 and playing some of the best baseball this team has played in its history. The young core of Sarasota seems to finally be turning a corner as the young guns came out firing from all aspects. Sarasota found a nice mix of pitching and hitting to lead them to success. On the offense, Red Arrow hit .296, 7 home runs and 13 RBI from the leadoff spot, and Lionel Bogescu and Bruce Buckley both hit over .300. The Sarasota bullpen was locked down as they had some of the top pitchers of the spring, which will be detailed later. And the last team review we have is the Cancun Torres, who seem to be in their prime years and are hitting their stride, and the spring was no different, as they went 18-6 in a great spring. Cancun was on fire as they played very well throughout the spring, including losing only 3 games in the month of April. Leadoff veteran Farley Hank hit .321 with 2 home runs and 20 RBI, and Cade Munson hit .326 in a great spring. Left fielder Revin Knox hit .340 with 3 homers, and the team leading 23 RBI. Starting pitchers Barack Obama had a great .263 ERA as he took to be one of the leaders of a veteran pitching staff that looks to contend for a World Series. Some fantastic individual performances this spring as well, and they deserve to be highlighted as well. So here's some player highlights from the season 23 spring. Thomas Corcoran, Vancouver reliever, was on point in the spring as he led the league in ERA over the spring with a .53 ERA, just besting the Sarasota duo of Pat Rogers and Bartolo Pizza, who both had under .75 ERAs in their own right. Corcoran is trying to cement himself as a young star reliever, and in his spring certainly elevated his own stock. John Camden himself had a fantastic spring, and on the reigning World Series champ San Antonio, Camden, the shortstop, flashed the glove and put his bat to good use in the four-hole for a potent Sloss lineup. In the spring, he hit .302 with 9 home runs and 18 RBI, a great performance from a player looking to help lead the Sloss to a repeat championship this season. Johnny Times II, another name worth pointing out, is a left fielder for the New Orleans Rougarous. Times II led the league in average during spring training with a .347 batting average and collected himself 7 home runs and 27 RBI. Times II is sure to be a key cog in the NOLA lineup over the course of the regular season. To say the spring was an exciting precursor to the rest of the season, but it's over now, so let's move on to when things actually matter. And for this segment, we like to call IO's predictions. Let's go ahead and get this out of the way and say that my Sarasota Supernova, I believe, have made a turn in the positive direction for the season and will finish the season either at 500 or better if the spring training was any type of indicator. The pitching and the hitting all comes together. This team could be a pretty tough matchup for anybody. And I do believe they are a little ways off for a championship run. We can look back possibly at season 23 as the turning point for this team. Right, now that that's out of the way, let's move on to some other season predictions for the Eastern Division. With the moves made in this offseason, I see Cancun reclaiming the top spot of this division. This lineup from top to bottom is stout. With Hawk, Knox, Munson, Bauer, and Ace Carter there possibly might be no better front end of a hitting lineup and in all of PBE. With starters like Vivi Zellman and Stryker, with Jose 43 still on the roster, this team, top to bottom, is scary. And I think they can easily win this division and make a solid run at a championship. Also in the East, I predict New York to fall off slightly. With Cancun taking over the top spot and teams like Outer Banks and the New Orleans Rougarous competing for playoff positioning, and even teams like Sarasota and the Sloths getting better this season, I think we'll see more losses on the New York's resume than last year. And they will fall to second or third within the division, and I think it's going to be a tough spot for them to repeat a championship run due to the regression of losses that they made over the season in the offseason. But I can definitely see New York falling off as a top-tier team this season. West, I think it's probably safe to say that San Antonio is going to repeat as a top-tier team to lead them this season. They basically just reloaded during the offseason, keeping most of their team intact with improvements and only a slight regression. Still got Sandberg, Poe, McDonald, and John Camden all there still, and with formidable front end of the lineup and a strong starting rotation and even stronger bullpen, San Antonio should be able to make a run again at a division title and at a PBE championship. Staying away from the Lord Voldemort of PBE, Death Valley, I'm going to move on to probably my surprise team of all PBE, the Nashville Stars. They're going to be my surprise pick to contend this year. I really like what they've done with the starting rotation, picking up Balaquin, and to go along with Tyler Johnson and Barack Obama, with Blue Line and Herbie Farnsworth in the bullpen. This is a pitching-oriented team. That said, they are not without some sluggers, as they still have Thomas Rosenbjerg and Spornberg in the middle there. I see them competing with the Sloths and Death Valley at the and making some moves possibly in the playoffs and being my surprise team of this season. Well, that's it for IO Season 23 prediction. Good luck out there, and we look forward to watching. Now it's time for everybody's favorite time of the show. We look at the minor league side of things as we go to the Minor League Rewind with Sam. Sam will look back on the spring training, and we'll have some insights on this upcoming season. Take it away, Sam.
Spring training in the minor league pro baseball experience has come to an end, and now it's time for opening day. But it's worth talking about the good and bad performances of Season 23 spring training. This is the minor league recap, and today we'll be talking about who was hot and who was not in Season 23 spring training. I'll be talking about 2 teams that did very well this year, 2 teams that didn't, and 3 standout individual performances over the course of this spring training. One of the best team performances this season was the Amarillo Armadillos. Despite the fact that they lost a close division series to the Kansas City Hepcats last year, the Dillos kept their heads down and grinded over the offseason. It showed in spring training as they went 13-7 over the 20 spring training games. While their first half was pretty subpar as they went just 5-3, they rebounded with an 8-4 second half of spring training and are hoping to continue that solid play into and throughout the regular season. If the Dillos can replicate their success from spring training, they'll no doubt be serious title contenders come the postseason. While the Dillos had a great team performance, the Kingpins really stood out for the rest of the spring training. The underdog Kingpins went to the World Series last year, and despite losing a hard-fought battle with the Hepcats, they decided to train harder and harder come opening day. The grind paid off, as in their first half of spring training, the Kingpins went 6-2, losing their first game against the Mounties and their 9th against the Dynamos. That's not bad at all. In April, the Kingpins slowed down a bit, but not much, going 7-5 in April and concluding spring training with a 13-7 record. The Kingpins are coming out of spring training hot. The question is, will that fire last through the regular season? Now we've went over some of the best team performances, let's go over some of the worst. Not every team can have a 13-7 season, so we might as well highlight the bad ones. First up on the chopping block is the San Bernardino 66ers. Unfortunately, the 66ers finished 7-13 at the end of spring training. Coming off of a rough season, San Bernardino is hoping to use some of their off-season pickups to potentially give them a solid run at the postseason. The 66ers had an awful first 8 games, going 2-6 in the month of March. Despite this, they were able to rebound and have a pretty even April, going 5-7, just above 500, or below. However, this still put them at the bottom of the Western Division, and they unfortunately finished with a record way below 500. After this performance, hopefully San Bernardino can kick it into high gear and make a run at the postseason. Who doesn't love a good underdog story? The Eastern Division saw both the Dallas Dynamos and State College Swifties hit a cold streak as they finished 8-12, tying for last in the Eastern Division. Yup, the Dynamos and the Swifties both finished with the same record. So I'm going to just lump the two together and make a joint little thing about it. The Dynamos had a much better start to the season than the Swifties, and by much better, I mean they went 3-5 instead of 2-6. You can do the math for the rest of their spring training. Dallas ended up going 5-7 in their last 12, and the Swifties went an even 6-6. Both of these teams have come off of pretty bad seasons, so hopefully their cold streak from spring training goes away fast, so that there can be a heated Eastern Division battle. And now for the 3 standout players of the minor league PBE spring training: Wallace Gromit, Chris Jacob, and Scotty Omega for the Mounties, Kingpins, and Dillos, respectively. Wallace Gromit has been one of the best power-hitting catchers in the league. Despite his lack of home runs, Wally has had one of the most incredible hitting streaks I've ever seen. In 9 of his last 10 games, he's had 1 or more hits. That is absolutely incredible. Due to his consistency with getting bat on ball and getting on base, Wallace Gromit is no doubt a standout spring training player and a dangerous threat for the Mounties moving into the regular season. Season 22 Rookie of the Year Chris Jacob has had an outstanding spring training as well. Jacob has been at the 3 spot for the Kingpins for quite a while now, and for good reason. Much like Wallace Gromit, what sets Jacob apart from the rest of his squad is his uncanny ability to smack the ball. Jacob has gotten a hit in 8 of his last 10 games, which is definitely something to be proud of. After putting up MVP batting numbers last season, including a .327 batting average, I'm excited to see how Jacob does this year after an especially good spring training performance. The final player I'll be going over is Scotty Omega, the man with the best name in the PBE. Scotty had some of the best strikeout numbers I've ever seen in spring training, as in just 6 games he's fanned 14 batters. He's also a great stopper and has allowed just 5 hits in 11.1 innings pitched, despite a tough 1.1 innings pitched appearance against the Hepcats, where he let off 3 runs. Omega has been a stud reliever throughout spring training, and a breakthrough is imminent for him this season. Overall, this has been an incredible spring training, but now it's time to throw all those stats away in favor of opening day. I'm super hyped to start the season, and I hope you are too. I'm Sam with the Minor League Recap, and I'll see you guys next week.
Thank you, Sam. Great stuff as always. Well, that's going to do it for our episode this week. As we have looked back on spring training, we got the beginning of the games for this season starting. Actually, we're a few days in. I'm currently watching the sim of the Swifties in Chicago as we speak. So look for us next week as we recap the first couple of weeks of sims, and we bring back hopefully some more Cowboy callbacks next episode. Thanks again. We'll see you next week.
What you know about rolling down in the deep when your brain goes